All right, everyone. So I am still going to give one more minute before we actually start, and so keep joining us and welcome. And this is Otis Landerholm, and we'll be discussing our immigration update, and we'll be focusing on the CARES Act today, which is the new economic stimulus package. And so please do bring your questions, and I really am happy that each of you are with me here today. We'll get started in just about another 45 seconds or so. All right, so I have that it is 10:01 a.m. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get started. So welcome, everyone. Some of you are here with us over the phone. Some of you are with us over the internet. If you're online, you might be able to see my face through video. Both are options. And so I really appreciate your being here. For some of you, this might be your first time joining us on one of these calls. And for others, you might have been with us each week. This is the third week that we are hosting these calls. I'm really happy to put them on, and I'm really grateful to each of you for taking time out of your day to be with me right now. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and during a pandemic, I think it's important to stay connected, and we are sheltering at our home. Pursuant to the order, but I think it's a good idea to still be in conversation with people in our lives. And so I'm grateful that you each are here with me. My plan for today is I'll do just a quick update on the virus. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening with immigration cases, and then I want to talk a little bit about the CARES Act, which is the coronavirus economic stimulus package that was passed by Congress on the Friday before last. And I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions about that, and so we'll talk about that as we get into it. And then, as I always do, I'm going to share a little bit of my own perspective and philosophy for each of us, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. All right? And so I do have my next call, which will be in Spanish, starting at 11. And so my hope is to complete this call by 10:45. And so yeah, I plan to do that. And so I'll jump right in here. So as far as the latest statistics, right? The latest statistics as of yesterday are that as far as the coronavirus goes, is that there are 374,329 total confirmed cases in the United States, and there are 12,064 total deaths actually related to this virus. And so I want us to kind of send our love and send our support to anyone with a confirmed case, and certainly to anyone who has anyone in their families who has actually died from this virus. It is spreading, all right? And we are doing a smart thing by sheltering in place, and we are doing a smart thing by doing what we can to wash our hands and do what we can to prevent the further spread of the virus. And as I always like to point out, right, the numbers that we're looking at, even with 374,000 total confirmed cases, you know, we do live in a country with 327 million people. And so we are talking 0.1 of 1% of our population. We are talking a very, very small percentage of actual people actually have a confirmed case. In fact, I myself don't know any person with a confirmed coronavirus case personally. I'd be very surprised if, well, not super surprised, I suppose, but I wouldn't be surprised, let me say it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if no one on this call even knows a person that actually has a confirmed case of the coronavirus. It is everywhere on the news, but it is not everywhere in our actual experience. And so I just really want us to be aware of that fact, right? It's important to know that it is there. It is important to see it as it is, but it is also important to not see it worse than it is. And so I just want to say that, right? And that's not to undermine it at all, right? It is serious. It is spreading, and we are smart to take precautions because we don't want to spread this new virus that our human race has never encountered before, if we can take precautions to prevent that from happening. But, you know, I just want everybody to keep things in perspective. There are more people dying of cancer. There are more people dying of heart disease. You know, there are actually more people in the world dying of hunger right now than they are of the coronavirus. And so, you know, let's keep those things in perspective. All right, that's all I want to say about the coronavirus. Now I want to talk about my update for immigration, and it really hasn't changed much since last week. Immigration courts have closed through May 1st, with the exception of detained cases. All right, detained immigration court cases are still moving forward. ICE still is deporting people, but there is pressure to get detainees who have cases out of detention right now. So if you know someone who's detained by ICE right now, you know, call our office. This is something that we might have arguments, and we are pushing immigration to let people out of detention. Although it's not easy, right? Detained cases are nasty. So if you know somebody who's detained by ICE, please contact us right away. All right. As far as USCIS, right? People that have cases in front of the Citizenship and Immigration Service, whether that's an asylum case or an application for a green card or an application for a U visa or whatever, all in-person services at USCIS have been closed through May 3rd, all right? And so that's the latest. All in-person services are closed right now. The service centers are still able to process things, so if we're able to mail applications to the government, let's still do that. If you have a work permit or anything that's about to expire, let's send those work permits out. And so it's important to know that as well, like the government is still able to process certain applications, especially if there's no in-person interview necessary. And so if you are, you know, considering applying for an immigration benefit, you are still able to do that. And I recommend doing that actually, especially if you have a case that you won't need an interview for. An I-90 green card renewal, for example, or like a waiver case or anything like that. In fact, our legal team is still operating. We're mostly working remotely, but we are still able to handle calls. We are still able to put filings together, and we're still able to get the cases on file as needed to best move our lives and our cases forward, right? This feels like a big pause that's happening, like somebody's pushed the pause button on life, but let's not consider it that way. And I really encourage each of us that are on this call today to not have this time be like a giant pause, and let's actually use this time to move forward in our lives, because you know, our lives, you know, really the bottom line is we're on this planet and we're alive for a really, really short amount of time here together, all right? Our lives will go by in the blink of an eye. They will go by very quickly, all right? And tomorrow is never guaranteed, regardless of the time that we're living through. And so I really don't want anyone to take this as an opportunity to just like pause their life and do nothing right now. All the contrary, right? Each day is precious. Let's take time and to move forward with our lives regardless of what's happening around us, all right? And that includes immigration. If you've got an immigration case, don't just sit back and say, oh, gee, I'll file that case, you know, in May once the government opens up. You know, forget that. Let's move forward with our lives. Why? Because we have our lives here now today. Really, the present is the only thing that we can really count on. The future is never guaranteed, and let's take steps today to make sure that once the future gets here, you know, we've got it as bright as possible for ourselves. And so, plus, you know, the bottom line is this coronavirus episode will end. All right, we will get a vaccine eventually. We will get over this. You know, heck, if we all get sick, then our bodies will create the antibodies, and then we'll get better. Right? Those of us who survive it will get better and we'll get on it. And at that time, gosh, it'd be better for each of us to have green cards, right? It'd be better for each of us to have our immigration status so that we can get back to work, get on with our lives, and really have the best future we can possibly have. So anyway, that's what I want to say. As far as our office is alive. Our office is well. We are rocking and rolling. We are answering calls. We are getting things filed. We are making things happen. And so if you have an immigration question or if you have an immigration situation, we are here and we are here to serve, and we're continuing to do that even through this crazy time that we're all facing. Awesome. All right, so that's all I wanted to say kind of about the update for immigration, the update about our office, things like that. Now I want to talk about the CARES Act, all right? I actually have put together a PowerPoint presentation, or I should clarify that. I am in the process of putting together a PowerPoint presentation on the CARES Act, which is the $2.2 trillion economic stimulus package that has been passed by the government. This is the 880-page law that was signed on March 27th by the President. It's called the CARES Act, which stands for the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. All right, and it's intended to stimulate the national economy, because as a lot of us are feeling, there is more unemployment. It is more difficult to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish. Businesses are struggling right now because travel is basically ground to a halt. The airline industry, for example, is basically ground to a halt. And so, you know, the overall problems that this virus and the shelter-in-place response to it are causing to the economy is serious, and so Congress has taken action here, passed the CARES Act, and I want to talk about that briefly here today. But I also want to give everybody a heads up. I'm going to be doing every month in our office we do what we call a monthly seminar, and I'm going to be doing one on the full thing of the CARES Act next Friday, which is April 17th. I want to make sure that I'm right about that. I think it's the 17th. Yes, next Friday, the 17th. We'll send more information out about that, and I'd love for you to be there, and that'll be on Facebook Live, it'll be on YouTube, things like that, because I want to give training about what the CARES Act is and what that means for immigrants, all right? But the quick and dirty scoop of it, all right, is this was passed on the 27th of March. It's $2.2 trillion in kind of economic stimulus that's going to be going into our economy. A lot of it is for businesses, all right? A lot of the money, like billions and billions of dollars, is to help the airline industry, to help certain parts of the economy that are like kind of mission critical, right, to keep in line. There's a lot of money for healthcare industry, a lot of money for hospitals, for increased testing, things like that. There's also a big part of the stimulus that's going towards unemployment insurance for the states. Also in these bills, they've moved the tax deadline back. You may have heard that. They've moved the tax deadline back from April 15th to July 15th of this year. That's for tax deadlines at the federal level with the IRS. And most states, I'll say, to my knowledge, most states have followed suit. The state of California definitely has. If you're in this call from a different state, then make sure to check with your own state's tax deadlines. But I'm pretty sure most states now have conformed to the July 15th deadline. And then part of this CARES Act also is what they call the rebate check for individuals. All right? And so a lot of us have seen news about that. And so, there are rebate checks that are going to be issued by the IRS for people, for individuals. All right? And so a lot of the question is, hey, can immigrants get these benefits? All right? Can immigrants get the rebate checks that are slated for individuals, which, for those who haven't learned about it, or for those who haven't seen the news about it, the law basically slates $1,200 for each individual as like a personal economic stimulus. And the way it's written is it's a tax rebate. It's basically a tax credit, all right? And the way it works is, if your adjusted gross income on your tax returns was less than $75,000 as an individual, or less than $150,000 for a married couple, then each individual will be eligible for $1,200 plus $500 for each dependent child. All right? And so, and if your adjusted gross income was more than $75,000 for an individual, or more than $150,000 for a married couple, then they have a formula, all right? And basically, for each $100 more than that amount, you get $5 less of their income, up to $99,000 per individual. Sorry that that's convoluted. That's the way the law works. So if your income is over $99,000 per individual, then you will likely not receive one of these individual tax rebates. But if it's less than that, you'll receive something depending on where you are between the $75,000 and $99,000 mark per year. All right? Sorry that I said that relatively quickly. Again, I'll be doing a full presentation, PowerPoint, about this in our monthly seminar. But basically, if you are an individual that made less than $75,000 on your tax returns, then you'll be eligible, if you are otherwise eligible, to receive $1,200 for you, plus $500 for dependent children who are eligible. All right. So what does this mean, and who's actually eligible to get this, right? So U.S. citizens are eligible to get this, and immigrants who are classified as quote-unquote resident aliens by the IRS are eligible to receive these payments, all right? So again, this bill is not an immigration bill. It has nothing to do with entering or exiting the U.S. It has nothing to do with immigration status. It is a tax bill, all right? It is a tax credit, all right? And so, so the classifications are not immigration classifications. They're actually IRS tax-related classifications. But here's the way it works, all right? If you have a green card, you can get, you will qualify to get this money, all right? If you have a EAD, lawful status, lawful work eligibility, all right, and a valid social security number, you will be eligible to get this status, all right? There are certain visa categories like F1 students who are specifically not eligible, all right? But if you, for example, have TPS, if you, for example, have DACA, if you, for example, have a work permit that is a lawfully issued work permit, and if you have a valid social security number, all right, you will be eligible to reach this. You will be eligible for this payment with one very frustrating and very, I'll call it angering. I mean, I'm not one to get angry very often, but there is one exception that really irks me, that really is unjust, and that is for mixed families. All right. So if you are a U.S. citizen and you have your social, or if you are a green card holder and you have your social, but you are married and filing taxes jointly with someone who has a ITIN number, right, not a social security number, then you will not be eligible. Your family will not be eligible to receive this cash aid. All right. And so, and why that is, let me just say it like this. Why is that is because it was written into the law that way, and it's pointless, and it's actually, in my opinion, a mistake, because, you know, mixed families do contribute and are needing the stimulus package and are an essential contributor to our economy. And at the same time, I can't say I'm super surprised that there's this exception because they are isolating and, let me just say it this way, our federal government right now is anti-immigrant. And so I'm not super surprised that the federal government has done this, but that is the way that it works. All right. So just to be super clear, if you're a U.S. citizen, you can get this money. If you are a green card holder, you can get this money. If you're on TPS, if you're in DACA, if you otherwise have a work permit and a valid social security number, you can get access to this money unless you are married and filing jointly, tax term, all right, with someone who either does not have a social security number or does not have those things, all right, with someone who is not a quote-unquote resident alien as defined by the IRS. All right? That's the way the law works. And I just want us to be really, really clear that that's how it works. Okay? If you have questions about that, please hit *6 when we come to Q&A. Not right now, because right now I'm still talking, but let's answer those questions. I'm not saying the law is fair. It's not. I'm not saying the law makes sense. It doesn't. But this is the way the law is. All right? And this is the way it works for the rebate section of this law. You might still be eligible for some of the business relief that's out there. And now what am I saying? All right, certain of our clients, some of our clients, might have their own business and might pay taxes through their business. All right, like for example, you might be a landscape contractor. You might own a small restaurant. You might own a like handyman services. You might be a plumber. You might be a house cleaner, you might, whatever your job might be. I'm just saying those businesses because we have clients that are each of those, all right? So if you are your own business, you might have options not to get this rebate necessarily, but you might have options to get other pieces of the economic stimulus package that's going out, all right? And so I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not going to go into the business stuff right now, but if that's your situation, if you actually are your own small business, or if you have your own small business, please tune in to my monthly seminar, which, like I said, I'm going to be doing on Friday of next week. And we can talk about that because some of our clients won't be eligible for the individual rebate, but might still be eligible under some of the business protections that are putting out there. And I wanted to just say that. Also, I've read at least one report, all right? I've read at least one report where, okay, if you're married to an immigrant, if you're married to someone who is undocumented, right, and you're in the process of applying for their green card, but you don't have a work permit yet, all right? If that's you, which we have lots of clients that are in that situation, obviously, typically the best advice from an immigration lawyer's perspective is to file your taxes jointly, all right? Because that will show, it'll be an evidence of the bona fides of your relationship. And I've read at least one report, and I'll get clarity on this by the monthly seminar, that suggests that, okay, if you need this economic recovery, there might be an option to file your taxes separately so that the spouse filing separately can acquire this money, all right? And that report, just so that I'm being completely transparent, is put out by the National Immigration Law Center, all right? And what it specifically says is for mixed immigration status married taxpayers, the couple would need to file separately in order to claim the rebate for any household members. And then it says, however, filing separately may render a person ineligible for Affordable Care Act subsidies, all right? And taxpayers should consult professional tax preparers about the best options for their unique household situation, unquote, all right? And so that is all to say, hey, there's a lot of ambiguity and nuance to some of this stuff. And the best advice, our office we are not a tax office, and we do not give tax advice, we give immigration advice. And so some of the immigration advice is, you should really talk to somebody who knows your specific tax situation so that they can give you advice on whether or not this would affect your tax credits, all right? And we are here to give you support to make good decisions about your immigration case, all right? And so I just want to be super clear about that, and I'm sure there's going to be questions about that going forward, which we can address, all right? Sweet. All right. So that's all I'm going to say about the CARES Act. We're moving right along. It's 10:30. Now I'm going to go into my own kind of philosophy, coaching minute, mindset stuff, all right? And so what I want to talk about is, and so changing the conversation a little bit here, what I want to talk about is, all right, so we're all at home. Sometimes when we're at home, it doesn't always bring out the best in each of us, all right? Irrespective of health, imagine like we're all super healthy, right? But sometimes when we're stuck at home, we might not be in the best of moods. We might not react to certain situations or to certain loved ones that we do absolutely love. We might not react to them in the way we really want to react. All right? And so the purpose of what I'm about to say is really, okay, let's be mindful of how we react and how we respond. How do we interact with those when we are stressed? All right, so the lesson that I want to share in that context comes from Dr. Wayne Dyer. I don't know if you've ever come across Dr. Wayne Dyer's works. He's on YouTube. I love listening to him. Highly recommend it. I call this lesson of his, I call it orange juice. All right? And so the question, orange juice, right? The question is, when we squeeze an orange, what comes out? All right? And you know, you can ask this question of kids. When you squeeze an orange, what comes out of the orange? And, you know, if you ask anybody, the answer is orange juice comes out. And now think about that. Would apple juice ever come out of an orange when it's squeezed? Well, you know, no. Apple juice, no matter how you squeeze that orange, apple juice is never going to come out of it. All right? Well, how about grape juice, right? Is grape juice ever going to come out of an orange if you squeeze an orange? All right? No. Grape juice is going to come out of a grape, but it's never, ever going to come out of an orange. All right? So what's the real answer of when you squeeze an orange, what comes out? The answer is, what comes out is what's inside of it. All right? I'll repeat that. What happens when you squeeze an orange? What comes out is what's inside. So here's the thing to think about. When we are squeezed, all right, when we are stressed, when we have pressures put on us, economic pressures or any other pressures, when we are under or in new situations of uncertainty, when we face fear or challenge, all right, how are we squeezed? And when we are squeezed like that, what comes out of us? Are we feeling angry? Are we feeling sad? Are we feeling loving and joyous? Are we feeling silly and, you know, and funny? The thing to consider is what comes out of us is actually what's inside of us. Like if we're reacting to people in our household with more anger or moodiness right now, consider that there is anger or moodiness that is sort of unresolved within us. And let's just like take a step back and examine where that might be and why that might be. All right? The point is that if we want to change, or if we're not happy with how we are reacting right now, let's take a step back and let's examine why that emotion is inside of us. Let's not blame our spouse. Let's not blame our, teenage children, right? Let's not blame our parents for provoking the emotions that are coming out of us, because that is actually false thinking. Instead, let's look at where we have caused that emotion within us, all right? Because it's inside of us. It's something coming out of us, all right? So let's examine that, and let's get to the root of what's actually caused our emotions so that we can live powerfully and live the life we want. All right? So that's my kind of philosophical moment for today. At this point, we're going to turn it over to Q&A. So if you have a question, please hit. All right. If you have a question, please hit *6 so that you can ask your question, and we'll get to that. And again, as everybody's thinking of the question that you want to ask, I just want to say thank you all so much for being here, and please do let's use this time to be another one of our precious days here together on planet Earth to move our lives forward. And I really hope that for each of us. So, all right, do we have any questions?
I don't see any at the moment, Otis.
Okay, got it. And so remember, if you do have a question, please hit *6. If you don't have a question, please hit *6 anyway and share something with me, right? I'm trying to keep my own mental space very positive in this time, and I'd love for you to share with me how you're keeping your mental space positive.
We do have one question from
Cool.
Manuel.
Awesome.
All right, go ahead, Manuel.
Oh, yes, Otis. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Great. Okay. Manuel Ugarte in the house.
Yes. When is that money going to be available? Do you know?
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for asking that. The law itself says it will not be, or it cannot be available. It cannot be made available later than December 31st. All right. And so it must come sometime during this calendar year, which is like very not helpful. What the latest news sources are saying is that the most early rebates should be coming out during the month of April. And what they're saying is that, okay, it's going to be a process. And so I think it's going to be like between like mid to late April at the very earliest to like July, you know, somewhere in that window. I would say for the vast majority of us, don't expect it to come immediately.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yep. And Manuel, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
So Manuel, you are awesome, and you are our managing attorney here in our office. And so share with us, you know, what is something that you're doing to stay positive during this time?
Oh, well, thanks for the question. It's definitely trying to maintain perspective on the things that I can actually control and influence. I think with the closures of the courts, of the agency that approves applications, we cannot control that, but there's still a lot of actions that we can do. They're still processing applications and forms, and immigration officers are going into work, working remotely, and accepting applications, approving requests. So I'm focusing on the people that I can help, and preparing for when things reopen. I'm ready to argue cases, to submit additional documents and evidence. So preparing for that after we cross this hurdle.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm also going to just because I know and I'm inspired by it, you have also picked up a new hobby during this time. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is. I've picked up the guitar. I think I'm not a musician or know how to read music, but I've been taking this opportunity indoors to pick up a new outlet, and I think music is very calming and soothing, and
I love it.
It's been a great so far.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your contribution to our clients, to our office, and to everything that we're up to.
Sweet. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Otis. This is great.
Yeah, cool. And just to be super clear, so your question was about timing. I was just pulling up the report that I got this from. So according to at least one report, it says the U.S. Treasury Department aims to issue these checks as quickly as possible beginning in mid-April. All right? And as soon as your eligibility is calculated, the IRS will deposit your rebate into bank accounts listed for automatic refund deposits on your 2019 or 2018 tax returns. So what the IRS is saying is if you did not file taxes in 2018 or 2019, to do that as soon as possible. All right. There's no like separate form or application that we need to do to receive these rebates. It'll be processed by the IRS through our taxes. All right. So I just wanted to say that for everybody listening. Christy, do we have any other questions?
We do not.
All right. Cool. Well, everyone, I guess that means I just answered everything. So for everyone, thank you so much for being on today's call. We'll go ahead and end it here. It's 10:40 in the morning. And I wish you all the very, very best. And stay tuned. We'll be having another call just like this next week. Stay tuned also for our monthly seminar next Friday. And we'll get a lot more granular with all of the implications of this law at that time. And be well, everyone.
Jana, how are you? I hope you're safe and healthy. So
all right, bye. Thank you.